live.
Nice.
Kia ora, everyone out there in Facebook land. Mel is going to be sharing with her personal Facebook page, and then I will be doing the same. Thank you so much for joining us, or for hopefully joining us. Please join us. Come into this conversation. As we announced earlier today, we're getting ready to go on the search for our new leader here at PledgeMe, so our new CEO. And I'm obviously equal parts scared and excited because this is a really big move for us. So I'm here, Anna, the co-founder of PledgeMe, and I've also got Mel, our chair and interim CEO, here to talk about this move and what we're doing and where we're at with PledgeMe. So as we go, we'd love for you to pop any questions in below, thoughts, comments. Tell us that you love us. Tell us what you would want to see in this new role. Tell us if you're interested. What would you want in the future leader of PledgeMe? So please just ask questions as we go, and we'll try to make sure that we come back to them as that happens. But first up, maybe Mel, it would be really good to just get a sense from you about what is this role? What is the CEO role? What are we looking for?
We're looking for generalist. So somebody who's got a real keen eye for running a whole business. So we're talking technology, people, so HR, financial. If you've got any financial services experience, especially in a regulated environment like we are now with our licenses, that would be great. Somebody who's passionate about making a difference in the world, somebody who really cares. And of course, we've got a business in Australia too, which is where Anna is right now. So we're trans-Tasman now. So somebody who's not afraid of taking the reins of a trans-Tasman business too.
Exporting overseas. I'm just quickly trying to share this with my personal crowd, and I see my sister is watching. Hi, Jess.
In Germany.
Any questions that you want to ask about this role? Any thoughts, comments, concerns? So I love how you said that it's a generalist, but then there's all these areas that the role really covers, which I think is sort of the nature of PledgeMe. There's a lot of different areas to the business. Crowdfunding is pretty simple. You go out to your crowd for funding, but when you add the equity layer to that, and then to countries, it definitely has a few different things that a person would want to sort of have their head around. So I think the interesting thing that you commented on earlier is, while it'd be nice to have someone with a financial services experience, that's not a must-have in this, really.
No, not a must-have. I think that the regulatory environment we operate in is just actually a lot of common sense, especially around equity and investments. So I'd be quite happy with somebody who doesn't have the financial services experience, but who can understand, what is fair when you're talking about investments for people. And it's actually quite easy to read the act and get your head around it. And we've got some really good work that's been done in that area by Anna and the team over the number of years. We've got great documentation and great processes around regulatory environment to make sure we all know what we're doing, cross our T's and dot our I's. And we've got a really good legal team. We've got a good legal company, Deloitte, to help us on
two
as well.
Legal companies. We've got all the lawyers. If you need a lawyer, we'll have one for you.
Yeah, that's true. So we've got a lot of good support too, and our finance and compliance manager Jana has done a great job on making sure that we cross our T's and dot our I's. Keeps us at the board, every month. Make sure that we've got all the right documents in front of us to. And it's something that the CEO will be doing is working closely with Jana on the finance and compliance side of the business. It's really important. And Jana's great to work with. Well, everyone's great to work with.
Well, that ties in quite nicely to you sort of sharing, because Mel has been in this interim role for the last few months because I've been swatting off overseas and launching here in Australia. And what's been the biggest learning or the most exciting part of the role? Two questions: biggest learning, most exciting part.
Biggest learning, I think, was really how much hand-holding the campaigners need when they come to want to raise their funds. They've got a product, they might, they've got a crowd and they've been selling and they've got a business and they're business owners and entrepreneurs, and they kind of think, we've got this. And then you put the template of an investment memorandum in front of them and it all sorts to crumble away a little bit. So we've got a great team of people who understand the ins and outs of the IMs. And so it's really, the discovery for me is around our solution-based sales environment that we operate in. We really spend a lot of time with our campaigners, making sure that they're ready, fit, and able to go to their crowd. And Anna and the team have created a great process around that. So it was really pleasing, as somebody who's been sitting on the board, to be able to come in and see how much work gets done with campaigners before they go live to help them be successful. And I think, Anna, we spoke just the other day with the stats. We're about 70% success rate for the equity campaigns that we launch. I mean, that's fantastic. That's really great.
The average, at least a few years ago, for angel investment in New Zealand was around 20%. It's really good to see that people's crowds get in behind them. And I think part of it is when you're at a point where you're ready to go out to your crowd, you're more likely to be successful anyways. But yeah, that's an interesting learning. So the learning for you is just how much work it is to get a campaigner ready. And I think that's probably also the campaigners learning as well, is it's a lot of work to get ready, but actually a lot of that work is good company hygiene anyway, getting together, communicating it out. What's the thing?
I think one of the things I've really loved about the role is the people. So the people who have come to work with PledgeMe because they believe in the impact that PledgeMe wants to make in the world. And we did quite a lot of work when I first started in the role this year as interim CE around, the purpose and the vision for PledgeMe. And the team are so passionate about it, and it's so awesome hearing them talking. They come into the office and they're bouncing about a future leaders thing that they're out on the weekend, or somebody who's opening up a free garden center in the city, or all these fabulous campaigns we have, and they genuinely care about that side of New Zealand community. And that's what I found really fantastic, is the team and their commitment to the impact that PledgeMe wants to make.
Yeah, it's a big privilege to work with the team that we have, and an extension on from that to work with the campaigners that we work with. So it's just a really great crowd all around. Totally agree. For people that have just joined, you're watching a conversation between me, Anna Gunther, co-founder of PledgeMe, and Mel, our chair and interim CEO. And what we're talking about is a new search that we're going on now. We want a new leader for PledgeMe, so a new CEO. And so we've announced that today. And this is just a Facebook Live to talk a little bit more about the role, ask if there's any questions out there in our crowd. Currently the crowd, there's a few of you out there. Some of you are related to me. Some of you work for me, including Max, who sounds like he's in it now. Yeah, so if you're watching, ask questions, please do. Nothing is done, or make comments. And we're just gonna keep on rolling with some pre-prepared questions that we had around the role. So Mel, you've talked about what you've enjoyed and what you've learned in this role. And we've talked a little bit generally around what the role is going to entail, but maybe it'd be good to talk about where PledgeMe is at right now. So where is PledgeMe? What have we been up to?
We're at a really interesting time for PledgeMe. So, going from, a year ago where, just over a year ago, where we had only a few staff, and Anna was heading off to Australia, and we got the license, and she was starting to do the networking, and, things got really, really busy really, really quickly. And when I came into the role as CEO in January, the things that needed to be done were more around the infrastructure. So more around setting up processes and systems to help the team go from sort of 3 and 4 or 5 really dedicated people to suddenly sort of 10 people across Australia and New Zealand, 2 licenses to manage compliance, finance, end of year consolidated accounts for 2 companies. So, it all kind of exploded really quickly. So what we've done,
pricing agreements for those of you out there who aren't accountants.
I hand wrote the transfer pricing policy and the IP licensing agreement and the intra-company services agreement, because we have a shared services agreement, which actually, if you've come from an international background, you get that often services are centered in one country and served out, and that's how we do it. Basically, our New Zealand team service a lot of the functional stuff that the Australian business needs. So it was really about setting up a lot of those processes and systems to help the team work well as a team, and sort of just embed some of that stuff that we've been doing now. And the next stage is taking all that structure and using it to scale. And that's where we need to go now, is the real scale part. We had a little taste of that this year, where we had, I think, 5 or 6 campaigns across New Zealand and Australia, all closed within about 6 weeks of each other. And that was a real trial and tribulation for the team, but it really showed the teamwork. Everybody just rolled up their sleeves and made it happen. It was fantastic.
To give context, that's more than 10% of all the campaigns we've done through equity crowdfunding in all time in sort of a 6-week period. And we actually had our biggest month in June. We did $3.2 million through the platform, which is really exciting. That's huge for us, considering we've just hit the $40 million mark in all time. So the last year has been really busy, as you said, and I think we're seeing that scaling happening now. And we have a lot of infrastructure that we built and then checked in on recently, but we really need to, the new person coming in is going to help take us to that next sort of stage of growth and all the
and
help
I think
with that.
What's also interesting, Anna, for that role is that there's opportunity now to start looking at how can we expand what we do. What are the other niches that we could start looking at? We know this particular area of retail crowdfunding really, really well. What else could we be doing? We could investigate wholesale. We can create new partnerships. We've got the infrastructure ready. We've got the people in the team. We can scale now. So it'd be great for a new CEO coming in who's got ideas of how to stretch the business into new areas.
Yeah, and I think that's the exciting thing, is coming in at a point where, we have a really well-known brand in New Zealand, and we're starting to be known in Australia. And what other areas can we start looking into? At the same time, not saying that too loudly, because we probably just need to focus. It's always a mix.
It's like any growing business. There's always a tension between creating new ideas because you're in a new space and there's a new product that you could deliver because you know that there's space in the market for it, versus consolidating what you've got. There's always a tension.
And I think that's an interesting tension for us, especially being in a new area, in a new market, sort of building it out. We were the first licensed platform in New Zealand, and New Zealand was the first country in the world to introduce legislation specifically for equity crowdfunding. So we're really forging new paths. And one of my friends actually called it once. She's like, you're the modern day map makers. Like, you're actually building the map for this new space. And so we're already doing new stuff all the time. So how much do we focus on that new stuff that we already know versus extend out even further? And it's always that tension with the team as well, making sure we don't try to do too much. But we have a question from a woman named Hazel. Have we had any campaigns around the Bay of Plenty? I think we can say that we've had campaigns in all of the regions in New Zealand. I hope that's not a lie. I'm pretty sure we have. But yeah, we've had a few campaigns in the Bay of Plenty. We had the Waiapu investment round. So they raised money for their medical cannabis company. So $2 million in 10 minutes. I'm pretty sure that was Bay of Plenty. And insights around that, how easy or difficult it was. Actually, one of the things that really excites me is the fact that regional companies can do really well through crowdfunding, because actually, even though there's potentially less people in those communities can be more connected than you'd find in larger, more urban areas. And so what we've seen is we're getting some fantastic successes with companies in smaller areas, like, Dunedin. They had Ocho, who raised $2 million in 32 hours to keep chocolate making skills in Dunedin after Cadbury's decided to leave. And part of that was because the community got behind the idea of keeping chocolate making skills. And also they got behind the idea of a 20% discount for life on chocolate. So yeah, what we're finding is actually regional companies do pretty well, which ties into sort of our wider goals around impact. So as PledgeMe, we have financial goals and impact goals. And the impact goals are to actually fund through the platform in a way that represents Aotearoa. So we want to have 30% of our campaigns in the regions. We want to have 50% of our campaigns have female founders. We want 15% of our campaigns to be Māori. We want, a good representation of our campaigns to be social enterprise. And so, regional companies is something that really, really excites us. So if you have any more questions, people, do send them through. We've got Emma watching and telling me when stuff comes up. So where we're at, we talked about where we're at with PledgeMe right now. So we're going through that roller coaster of growth, the highs and the lows, all at the same time. Some really exciting stats and success, but also corresponding hard times. So the person coming in would have to be able to cope with that sort of startup, stay up, scale up lifestyle. What do you think the biggest area is for us to focus on, Mel? What is the sort of thing?
I think that's a tough one. Definitely people. I think our people will always need a lot of support, because what we do is new and different. And the people they are dealing with are in a new and different environment. So, our people need a lot of support. We've still got, like any great tech company that's had a great success quite quickly, we've got a little bit of tech debt that we want to work on. And we've, made great strides forward in that in the last sort of 6 or 8 months on fixing some of the things there. I'd like us to really focus on our networking and sales. That's really important for us. We've got some hefty targets, and we can't grow without targets. I mean, we're a profit for purpose company. We're not after profits to line our pockets, but our profits help us keep doing what we're doing and keep doing it with more campaigns. So if we can grow, more campaigns can have access to equitable funding.
I think that's a really important point. Our impact goals and our financial goals are interconnected. They're not separate, and it's not one is more important than the other, because actually by having a focus on supporting campaigners and social enterprise and women-led businesses and all of that has actually meant that we've actually done more equity campaigns and equity funding through our platform than the other platforms. So specifically equity crowdfunding campaigns, but our focus on our impact is actually directly linked into our financial achievement in some ways. So for us, they're connected. But with the hefty financial goal that Mel just referenced, we're aiming to $21 million through the platform this year. So it's a pretty big, hairy, audacious goal, but it's something that we think we can do because of our success so far and because of the our knowledge of the markets. Sorry, I interrupted. You were going to say one more thing.
I was going to talk a little bit maybe about the board and the relationship between the CEO and the board. Obviously, it's a little bit odd at the moment because I'm the CEO, but I'm also the chair, so I kind of have to wear 2 hats. So I'm feeling a little bit bipolar in the meetings, but that's okay. That's probably quite normal anyway. And for Anna herself, being the founder and CEO, moving into a role where she's effectively trying to report to me, but also then sits as a director on the board. While it's unusual, it's becoming less unusual. You see more and more really self-aware founders like Anna saying, do you know what? My skill base is here, and a CEO's skill base is here, and perhaps it's time to bring somebody else in to run the company while I focus on doing what I do best. And what Anna does best is, her brand and the networking that she can do and the way that she can help evolve the brand of PledgeMe. And the board have been, really fantastic. We've got a great board of directors who are really engaged with, spending the time to think through how the roles will fit together. So a CEO and Anna's role as the founder and the holder of so much knowledge and IP of the company. But we spent a long time working through how would the roles be differentiated enough so they weren't falling over each other, but giving each enough autonomy to do the jobs that they needed to do, and to ensure that we set up the CEO for success. And so the board were very careful on how they set up the role for the CEO. So whoever the candidates are that come through will no doubt have an opportunity to talk further about how we've managed to do that.
And I think that's a really good point. It's not normal for the founding CEO to stick around once a new CEO comes in. Often that will be the point in which the founder CEO goes off to do new things. But I really don't want to leave. I really love PledgeMe and what we do and what we're about, but am aware that I really don't want to be the person leading on a bunch of areas that a CEO would typically lead on. So it took us a while to figure out how to try to differentiate those roles, but at the same time, be open to the fact that whoever comes through the door that ends up being a leader, we might still need to think about that. How do we negotiate what those roles are going to look like, and just be open to setting that person up for success, and also be grown-ups about how we do that. but yeah, definitely PledgeMe's at the point where we need to take it to that next level, and we need someone to come in and help do that. And we need to do that with the team that we have. So yeah, it's a really exciting time. We've had a question come through. Hello, beautiful humans. Thank you, Morgana. Thank you for that compliment. There's a question around Takoha. So there was also an announcement today that went out on our Facebook page around Takoha, which is our Indigenous crowdfunding program. So Takoha was created last year in partnership with Maui Women Development Inc. And the announcement today was that we're evolving our mission for Takoha because unfortunately Maui Women Development Inc. Need to refocus on what they do best, which is lending. And when we created Takoha, we thought it was going to be about lending, but it actually evolved to no longer really be about lending at all. It was more about creating a program and a process for Indigenous entrepreneurs. So we're now going to be looking for new partners to work with on delivering that program. We obviously don't want to do it by ourselves as a Pākehā organization. That doesn't make sense. So it's something that we definitely need to do in partnership, but we're really committed to finding new partners to work with on that, but also to supporting the campaigners that we already have going through the process. The really exciting thing is, you know, we've educated hundreds of people on what crowdfunding is. We've had over $190,000 pledged through that program so far, which is pretty amazing. Our hypothesis that it would be harder to raise in regional communities was blown out of the water with those campaigns. So yeah, that's where we're at with Takoha. Thanks for the question, Morgana. And then we had another question come through about crowdfunding for charities. We've definitely had a lot of charities successfully crowdfund through PledgeMe, typically through the project side of the platform. And that's where you offer rewards rather than shares in a company or loan notes or anything like that. But it typically works best when there's a crowd that's really excited about what your charity is doing and some awesome rewards that you could offer. Braun, you asked that question and you said it was specifically around a cat rescue that you work with. One of our largest project campaigns was for a pet refuge. So a refuge for animals to support people going through domestic violence situations, a place for their animals to go so they could get out. And they raised over $300,000. Like, it was huge. So it's definitely possible for charities to go through a process to raise money. It's just really thinking about your crowd, your comms, and your campaign, so the 3 C's. With that, there was another comment around a vegan cookbook. Vegans do really well crowdfunding. That crowd is keen. So if you're thinking about doing a project-based campaign, definitely just flick us an email, contact@pledgeme.co.nz, and we can send you through our guides and give you some tips around creating that. So now we talked about scoping out the role. We've talked about the role itself. Is there anything else around, so timing, maybe? What's the timing for this?
Well, I think we're going live with the CCAD this week, and we'll hopefully find enough people in 4 weeks to get some interviews and find somebody. But probably appreciative that lots of people are actually in paid employment and might be leaving a job to come to us. So we're kind of scoping out maybe starting in January, because we get that it's coming up to Christmas. You probably want to take some time off between jobs. So yeah, pretty much looking at a start time somewhere in January, not early January, because everyone's on holiday. So it'll be somewhere in January.
Yeah, and we're planning actually we do quarterly or every few months we do a retreat with the whole team, because we're a remote team. So a lot of us are based around different cities and different countries. So we're planning to do our next team retreat around the arrival of our new CEO, so they get to land in with meeting everyone face to face, which is really exciting. So with that, so we're actually going to launch the job ad after this Facebook Live. We've got a blog post in the job ad so people can start looking at it and reading through it. We have had a lot of success in the past going out to our crowd to find people either for our team or our board. Mel actually came through our last crowdsourcing effort to find a new board member where we had over 100 applications. And we had such an amazing breadth of people apply and such skills and expertise, but also a lot of sort of heart, lots of impact focused people as well. So we're launching that ad tonight, just after this. And if you have any questions, Mel is going to be the main point of contact. for those questions, mel@pledgeme.co.nz. That will be.
Put that email on the Seek ad because I didn't see it. It looked like you could only apply directly through Seek.
Yeah, we'll make sure that's in there. Good point, Mel. So yeah, we'll make sure that that's in the ad as well in the blog post. But yeah, if you're interested in the role or if you know someone who'd be great for the role, please shoulder tap. I think the biggest thing, as Mel said, is we want someone who's sort of a generalist who can come in and hit the ground running, supporting our team, but supporting us through this growth as well. So someone who can get their hands dirty, but also help lead us on the sort of planning
and I think it would be fair to say somebody who gets the tech side of it. As much as, we've got a product owner, we'll have a developer, and, Anna's got a lot of that tech knowledge as well. It would be great if the person has got experience with technology as a platform that delivers a service and functionality, and working with product owner who you have to make changes in the Sunday. So that would be important, I think.
Is probably tech savvy, but probably not a developer or someone on the tools.
Yeah.
More just an understanding of how to work with tech companies and how to communicate that to customers as well, for sure.
And also, somebody who loves getting out there and meeting people and networking and, helping be the face of the brand in New Zealand, while Anna, is always going to be Anna, and she's got her brand and she and
I don't want brand Anna. Get rid of brand Anna. We need brand PledgeMe more, which we do, and it's great.
Having a CEO who can own that role in New Zealand and promote PledgeMe in New Zealand and use their networks to look for opportunities for PledgeMe and isn't afraid to get out there is really important.
Yeah, no, totally. I think the person that comes in will have to be comfortable doing things like speaking at events, and definitely like not a pro at it, but not terrified by the idea as well, because it's part of the role is getting up on stages regularly and talking about what we do. So if there are no other questions, if there's any final questions, pop them through now. Otherwise, you can definitely get in touch with us through PledgeMe, through Facebook. Just shout out. And this is going to be going for the next month. So applications close on the 17th of October. And we would love if you thought about applying or shoulder tapping someone that you thought should apply. Cool. Any final thoughts, Mel?
No, we've got somebody called Tazrif who said he's from Bangladesh, and I'm not sure whether you've got some connection issues there, Tazrif, but you said something about can people add going live. I'm not sure what your question actually is. If you want to actually type something now, type it in and we'll try and respond. Otherwise, we're gonna sign off.
I see something around can people from overseas participate? So with this job ad, good question. We're looking for someone in Wellington. So we'd like our CEO to be based where most of our team is based. We do have team members in Auckland and Christchurch as well, but looking to have someone based in Wellington. And if the question was more around participating, yes, that word, in crowdfunding campaigns, projects totally. Project campaigns can be pledged to from anywhere in the world. They have to be created in New Zealand though. Equity campaigns is a lot harder because it depends on the legislation in the country where you're based, because we're only licensed in New Zealand and in Australia. And even those bits of legislation don't really talk to each other. So yeah, it's definitely harder to invest in companies through the platform. But that might be something for the new CEO to help fix. Global legislation.
Maybe we could launch in India.
Maybe we could. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, anyone and everyone who joined us for this while we were going live, or maybe even watching it later, maybe because you're applying for the job and you wanted to find out what was going on and you realized that there was this Facebook Live, and then you realized that maybe you in the future would be on a Facebook Live for PledgeMe as PledgeMe's new CEO. This is part of your job. So thank you. Thanks, Mel, for joining. This was Mel's first Facebook Live. I think she did a really good job.
Cool.
And thank you for Emma and the team who've helped us make this happen tonight. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, team. Really appreciate everyone's help tonight. Thank you. And I'll give you a call